Hello. Yeah. Friends, this is Sanjeev Shah from Host Club, Rotary Club of Bombay. Welcome you all. And there is one small announcement. I draw your kind attention that you have all been given the lucky numbers. I hope sincerely that you have drawn the ball and put it into the center bowl at the lucky draw which is happening at the entrance. The Rotarians who have not yet drawn the ball corresponding to their lucky draw numbers are requested during lunch time to approach the lucky draw desk close to the registration and put that ball. Second important announcement is that the serial number, kindly note the serial number 6462663 are requested. These are the Rotarians, these batches. With these batches, they are requested to approach the registration desk for the lucky draw. Kindly note that serial number 6462663 during lunch time, kindly approach the lucky draw desk as well as the registration desk. There is some important issue which has to be looked into. Thank you very much, DG.
Thank you. Thank you, Sanjeev. Thank you, Sanjeev. Friends, I was told, that only 35% people have put their lucky draw into the bowl where it is lying there. I request everyone to do it so that I justify the lucky draw process, which we are going to be starting very shortly. Friends, I think we have the next speaker with us, motivational speaker Thimmappa Hegde, Director, Narayan Institute of Neuroscience. And let me invite Mr. Hegde on the stage, and may I request AB to be played on.
Dr. Thimmappa Hegde. Have you heard the saying, men are from Mars and women are from Venus? Sure, we all have. Yet, we all have to coexist. That too, happily. Do you want to know how? Listen to Dr. Thimmappa Hegde's TED Talk about how men and women use their brain differently and why it is important to harness the power of the right brain to live a happy life. Dr. Thimmappa Hegde, founder and director, Narayana Institute of Neurosciences, is renowned for being a multifaceted personality with many accomplishments to his name. Dr. Hegde has performed several thousand neurosurgical procedures. He has authored 30 scientific publications. He was invited to speak at an international meeting at the Vatican City and had a special audience with the Pope, His Holiness John Paul II. He has been recognized by the Lions Club Bengaluru as an outstanding citizen and visited USA and Canada on a special exchange program from the Rotary International. We extend a warm welcome to him at the Miracle Discon of Rotary District 3141.
Justice Deepak Mishraji, Rotarians, I'm honored to be here. Thanks, Ashwin, for this great opportunity. Some of you would have heard of Wajid Ali Shah. There was a movie which portrayed his life, Shatranj Ki Khiladi. He was the last Nawab of Lucknow. And one of his passions was music. Like we had a music concert this morning. And he would invite great musicians to the court. But there was one musician who persistently turned down his invitation to come. And so when the Nawab wanted him, he personally goes to his house to welcome him. When the Nawab of your area comes to your doorstep, you cannot say no. He said, I will come, but there is one condition. When I play my music, I don't want anybody to shake their head. The Nawab was overjoyed. He said, it will be honored. If anybody shakes their head, I will have their heads cut off. He was eccentric, he could do anything. There was a large information that so-and-so musician is going to come. But on that day, that hall in Lucknow, which can host thousands of people, about 1,000 ardent music lovers came. The concert started. And as the music went to a pitch, a small group of people couldn't control themselves. They began to sway. And seeing them a patch here and a patch here, And the Nawab who was sitting on the stage watching, he was alarmed that all the music lovers, are going to be, condemned to death according to his own sentence. At the end of the first song, the musician said, "All those who sway to my music, please remain. The rest of you may go. To those of you who stayed back, I will play my music." My dear friends, when we have a great speaker like Justice Deepak Mishra ji, and many of you have been here from 8:30 in the morning, I expected a complete walkout, and this is the greatness of the Rotarians of Mumbai. Congratulations. As a neurosurgeon, we see a lot of human suffering. And as you with caring hearts, when you go out into the field, you see a lot of suffering. But I will expect you to be a little bold, a little strong, because I'm going to show you experiences from my practice which I see in and out. And as the theme of this meeting is inspiration, what is the inspiration we can draw from human suffering? This is the sort of problems we see day in and day out. When someone dies, someone you love, someone whom you lived with, someone who's been a part of you, something in you also dies. We lose that person whom we love. But the pang is not just that someone dies. Every death is a reminder of our own death. And that is the bigger shock that we get. Friends, if you have really lived your life, and if life has been like Rotary has given an opportunity to serve, and one day when the notice comes for us to go, death is not going to be so painful. I will share some of my experiences. Our former president opened the neuroscience services at Narayana Hridayalaya, and he's been a great source of inspiration for me. And he said one thing: dream is not what you see while you're sleeping, it is something that does not let you sleep. He would always quote from the great sage Patanjali. And Patanjali, in about 5,000 years ago in the Yoga Sutra, said, when you are inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, your mind transcends limitations. Your consciousness expands in every direction. Dormant forces, faculties, and talents become alive, and you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamt yourself to be. Friends, Patanjali also spoke about good listening in the Yoga Sutras. I know you've been here from 8:30 in the morning. He said there are 3 levels of listening. Level 1 in Sanskrit is called kutuhal, and kutuhal means curiosity. What is a neurosurgeon here doing? That could be an element of curiosity, but he says this is the lowest level of a listener. The next level is called a jignasa. Why have you spent 2 days of your life to come here? Hopefully, Ashwin and his team would have brought some speakers who have new ideas, new thought that is worth your time. And if you're here for some new information, my time is worthwhile, and that is level 2. But Patanjali says there is even higher level of a listener, and that he calls mumukshu. And what are the qualities of a mumukshu? A mumukshu is one whose mind is open, no evaluation, no judgment. And this is my request, because each time you see a slide, one thought of the other thought flows. But if you can be a little like a little child, keeping your mind open, there is a possibility of not just to be informed, there's a possibility, Patanjali says, to be transformed. Transformed means you look the same, but internally, one idea, one thought, one example would have brought a catalytic change in you. Many years ago, Gautama Buddha saw 3 things which transformed him. He saw an old man, a sick person, and a dead body. And he said, if this is going to happen to me, and that sent him thinking. In our neurosurgical practice, this was a challenged child we had from Bihar. This was a conjoined twin. You can see 2 bodies in one. And when the baby was brought to me, the mother wanted her to be like a normal child. And she was saying she's crawling and she's developed a wound and she's not able to, the wound is not healing. I said, I've never done something like this, but I will, see what exactly is the problem. This is the soft tissue scan to show how she was. You can see 2 bodies together. Now, the challenge for me as a neurosurgeon was that the spinal cord of the girl and the twin was united at one point, and my job was to see how I can make a safe separation of the spinal cord. We involved the pediatric surgeons, the orthopedic surgeons. We had a planned approach. We started the surgery at 7 o'clock in the morning. It went on till about 3 a.m. the next day. Half the body of the child had to be removed. We went through anxious moments because there was a lot of international media covering this case. And when she recovered. This is the same girl. This is the same girl who has made a complete recovery. I'll show you one more example. As I said, you need to be a brave heart. This was an engineering student, 3 hours outside Bangalore. He had a road traffic accident where a rod penetrated through the bridge of his nose and came out at the other end. But the boy was fully conscious, and the fact that he was fully conscious meant important areas were not damaged. He was speaking, he was moving all his limbs, and he says, "Doctor, please do something for me." I'll just show you a glimpse of the picture. I'm not going to show you it for long. This is how he came to us with the rod. But I'm going to show you the actual scans. This is the scan. And I wanted to see, today we have got what is called virtual surgery. And this is what virtual surgery does. In virtual surgery, you can, on the scanner machine, you can open up the skull and see exactly where the rod has gone in relation to important structures. Hopefully that important areas of the brain are not damaged when we are trying to remove the rod. Friends, removing the rod was not a problem. Our brain is floating in a pool of water, and whenever there's a penetrating injury, brain fluid started leaking out. In spite of multiple surgeries, he developed series of infections. He came to us in this condition. This is the size of the rod that's removed. And 4 months later, we have the same boy walking who's made a complete recovery. You know, doctors show only their good cases, but most of our patients, quite a few of neurosurgical patients are like Christopher Reeve. It was in the year 1995 when I was in Washington, D.C. pursuing a skull-based fellowship. On a Sunday morning, we heard the news that Christopher Reeve fell off a horse and broke his neck, and he had become completely paralyzed. Being a celebrity and a Hollywood star that he was, everything possible was done, but he remained quadriplegic, that he could not move his hands and legs all his life. A long time later, when he could speak, the first thing he told his wife, Dana Reeve, "I'm finished, I'm done." But his wife looks into his eyes and said, "But Christopher, you are still you." He was so taken aback by the acceptance of his wife that even though my body is completely crippled, I'm still me. And that is why he entitled his book, Still Me. He was a Superman to everybody, but now completely quadriplegic. My question to you is, what is in me still? Our Chief Justice gave us a nice example from the Bhagavad Gita, and this is going to illustrate the same story that he said. I was, I am, and I will. I want you to look at your own picture when you were a little boy or a little girl, aged about 3 or 4 years. You have a memory of your own self at that time. My question to you is, over the years, your body has changed, your mind has changed, your thoughts have changed, your ideas have changed. So much has changed, but one thing has not changed. You are still you. Can you see, there is one thing in you that has never changed. Well, something is all the time changing. Our Chief Justice was trying to draw attention to what is that in me that never changes. You will realize this, you know, whenever we come for a meeting like this after a long time, you meet some people after many years, the first reaction is, my God, you're looking so old. You may never say you're looking so old, but you always see others getting older, but you never feel you are getting old. What is that non-aging, constant principle in all of us that is there in the beginning, will be there till the end? You know, this really happened to one of my classmates in school. She was sharing her experience. She went to Chennai recently. And the moment she landed there, she had such severe toothache, she said, "Can you take me to a dentist nearby?" The doctor was not there, but when you are sitting in the clinic, you look around and there are all the signboards, and she read the name of the doctor, Dr. Alan Rodrigues. And a thought came to her mind, is this Alan, my classmate in school? And you know how the human mind flashes back to that tall, handsome boy she secretly loved. And as she was ruminating on those school days, in comes the doctor, but somebody else, middle-aged, pot-bellied, gray-haired, balding. And mentally she says, this is somebody else. But as he started speaking, his mannerisms were so typical, it was clear this was an older frame of the same person. And as she was getting ready to go, she said, Dr. Allen, were you in this particular school? He said, yes. Were you there between this year and this year? Confirmed. Now she flashes a big smile and says, can you recognize me? He looks at her and says, I'm very sorry, madam, I forget what you were teaching me. Jokes apart, you know, We never feel we are getting old because the real you never gets old. The real you never falls sick. And believe me, the real you never dies. And that is the quotation he gave to us from the Bhagavad Gita. The real you has been there from the beginning till the end. This is a little scenes from Israel where I had a chance to go recently, where you have some images of the Holocaust. And this is one of the concentration camps where you had a person called Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist in Austria, very successful, but being a Jew, he was incarcerated. He was like anybody else. And the Germans at that time were doing some forced experimental surgery. And although he was a doctor, he was like anybody else. Once, when they put him on the operating table and they were doing a forced operation on him, there was a sense of freedom at one moment. He said, these people can do anything to my body. They cannot do anything to me. Friends, I just want you to see what is there which is other than my body. Now, he has said this, and this can be very inspirational. Everything can be taken away from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedom, is to choose one's attitude in a given set of circumstances. In a given this is my message, friends. What life does to you, you have no control. But how you relate to what life does, and that is what the crux of my talk. A very inspirational book, less than 100 rupees, you can order from Amazon, Man's Search for Meaning, where he brings out a new school of psychotherapy called logotherapy. According to logotherapy, if I'm able to discover the meaning for my suffering, if I'm able to help my patients to give meaning for their suffering, logos means meaning. And then if there is meaning, then you're able to handle your difficulties much more. Watch this couple sitting on a roller coaster. The man seems to be enjoying himself. The woman has an expression, never again I'm going to be on this. You can see the situation is the same, but your attitudes are different. The attitude is what we have. And this is what is called, in spite of whatever happens to us. This is a book written by a Jewish rabbi, Harold Kushner, who says when bad things happen to good people, they do not become bitter, but they become better. And that's why a positive attitude can transform a breakdown to a breakthrough. The rest of my talk, which I'll sum up in another few minutes in the available time that I have, is to look into real issues in my life, how I'm able to discover meaning, how I'm able to discover purpose. Now, how I can make the most of every situation. Somebody has very nicely said, when you win, you win. When you lose, you learn, and therefore you win. And if I'm able to learn from every difficulty, I stand to win. Right now, USA went through a terrible winter. I've given an example of Chicago, and during winter, on a day like this, can be very bad. And supposing there is a Rotary District Conference at that time, during a bad winter time, everything is scheduled. Do you think the meeting will go on or it will not go on? It will go on. Why? Because people anticipate winter and are prepared for winter. Are we prepared for the winter of our lives? Now, this is what, when we see people with disease, disability, and death, friends, this is my message. Can we be prepared for the winter of our lives? These are quotations from a nice Upanishad called the Ishavasya Upanishad. Those who do Surya Namaskar may begin the morning with this prayer, Hiranmayena patrena satyasyahi pitam mukam Tattvam Pushanna Pavranu Satya Dharmaya Drishtaya. Oh sun, you address the sun in the morning. What do you do at night? Every morning we are born, and every evening is the evening of our life. This Upanishad, the Ishavasya Upanishad, prepares a person to live well and prepares a person to die. I'm not going through all these verses, but there are verses which says, you visualize as if you're going through a funeral pyre. And one of the verses is, Basmantam Shariram. Om Krato Smaram Kratagam Smaram. Personally, this is a prayer for me every morning and every evening, because every morning is a new day, a new birth, and every evening you're prepared to die. The verses go that way. Agne Naya Supatara Ye Asman, Vishwani Deva Vayunani Vidwan. See the preparedness of a person to enter into the funeral pyre. That means he has accepted his death. The proof of one's life is if you are ready to die. If you have lived well, you are ready to die. So in conclusion, how do we go from what are the inputs that we can take to handle a breakdown to a breakthrough? We had a very inspirational first speaker who spoke about the attitude of gratitude. You know, whenever I see all my patients, the message is how blessed. And in so many ways he illustrated, which was reiterated by our chief guest, the former justice, about the attitude of gratitude. Second is, being so blessed, can I make the most of every moment of my life? Can I discover purpose? Can I discover meaning? There is a very nice TED talk, and I would refer you to this David Steen Ras, which has personally transformed me in so many ways. And he asked this question, what do we really want in life? And the answer is, whatever we do are directed towards happiness. Why have we come to this meeting? With the hope that attending this meeting will make me happy. And he gives you a shortcut to happiness. The question is, are happy people grateful or are grateful people happy? The answer always is, whenever you are grateful, you are happy. And I'd recommend you listen to this talk. It's a TED talk, and if you have any difficulties, I'll give you my mailing ID or through Ashwin. I would strongly recommend you listen to this talk. This is a nice poem, a song of a grateful heart. And I will share this poem with you, which says, I've never made a fortune and it's probably too late now. I don't worry about that much, I'm happy anyhow. And as I go along life's ways, I'm reaping better than I sowed. I'm drinking from my saucer because my cup has overflowed. Now, there is a nice childhood poem. When we are small children, this is the poem. And again, the Chief Justice, so coincidentally, he brought out this theme of happiness, you know. And this poem, which we sang during our school days, it goes like this. The time to be happy is now. The place to be happy is here. The way to be happy is to make someone happy. And that's what the Rotarians are doing, and to create a heaven right here. There was a man who was sent to a psychiatrist, and he was sitting on the psychiatrist's couch, and he was telling, I really do not know why my doctor has referred to you. I have really no problems in my life. I've got a very good job, a high-paying job. My boss is very supportive. I've got a very loving, caring spouse who gives me all the freedom. Children, very independent, committed, excellent health. Suddenly the psychiatrist gets a little alarmed and goes close to him. And since how long have you been in this condition? Happiness seems pathological, no? You won't believe. You could report it somewhere. See, when you are happy, when you are grateful, the next thing is, what do I make from my life? There is one Upanishad called the Kathopanishad. In the Kathopanishad, it is a little boy meeting the god of death, Yamadharmaraja, and in that interaction, the little boy brings out the purpose of life. And the purpose of life is, all of us have got 3 rinas or 3 debts to fulfill. The first is to our parents. No one has done more to us than our parents. And this debt, believe me, is essentially unfulfillable. But then how do we repay the debt to our parents? If you live your life in such a way that others are able to say, so blessed your parents are that they have a son or a daughter like you, you fulfill Pitra Rina. The second is called my commitment to society, and that is exactly what Rotary gives an opportunity to you. Those of us who are so blessed, Rotary is a foundation where you know whatever charity you give goes for a definite cause. You know, one of the problems of all charitable organizations, you do not know how much, but Rotary certainly needs a recognition like a Nobel Prize, because here is one organization where whatever you invest directly goes to, and Rotary gives an opportunity to be able to repay to the community. And the third is to be able to live a full life, to live to your fullest potential. I'll conclude with a few books that I love. One is a Nobel Prize winning book by Hermann Hesse called Siddhartha. There was a movie also that came in the same name. And part of finding meaning in suffering is mental training. The Sanskrit word is called titiksha. And the character here has got few qualities. He says, I can fast, I can wait. Can you imagine a moment when you're really, really hungry and food is not served, it is delayed even by half an hour, but you can say, I can wait even when I'm hungry? You know, these are certain, it looks like it's a small quality, but if you can wait, if you can fast, That brings about bodily fitness and bodily flexibility. And if there is bodily flexibility and bodily fitness, then you have mental fitness and mental flexibility to face whatever adversaries life brings. This is a little child. Every morning I see small babies like this waiting for their time for the operation. From the morning he is fasting. As long as he is with his mama, no problem. Now it's time for me to take him to the operating room. Now at this moment I want you to portray yourself like the little child. A stranger wearing a cap and a mask comes and asks the mother to give the child. For the child it looked like a terrorist. The child refuses to come. But the child is very amazed why the mother willingly gives you to a stranger. And we take this crying child to the operating room. Imagine at that stage what your thoughts will be. Why did my mother abandon me? Why am I taken to that cold operating room where people are all waiting to torture me? When we go through difficulties, we are like little children. We are not able to see the whole picture. What is the whole picture? The child is there for a healing process. And the message is, every difficult situation can be, when you are able to see the whole picture, because you're not able to see the whole picture, you're not able to understand why God or whoever is subjecting to all these difficulties. Albert Einstein, in his autobiographical book, one of the greatest scientists of all time, he had mentioned one thing: the more I know, the more I realize how little I know. And if a great scientist like this could say, and one of his nice quotes were, the deeper I went into existence, the more the mystery has deepened. I'm dying full of wonder. I'm dying in wonder. The value of prayer. I can't emphasize the importance of prayer. And I will conclude, this is a place in Israel, in Jerusalem, where you have a mosque, you have a church, and you have the Western Wall for the Jews. And one of the greatest prayer that you could do is, yes, inshallah, thy will be done. This was the Secretary General of the United States, a Nobel Prize winner, and he said few things. And I want you to give this as a take-home message. And the message is, for all that has been, thank you, and for all that will be, yes. This is a prayer from Tagore which says, let me not pray to be sheltered from dangers, but to be fearless in facing them. Let me not beg for the stilling of my pain, but for the heart to conquer it. Let me not look for allies in life's battlefield, but to my own strength. And finally, he says something so powerful. He says, grant that I may not be a coward feeling your mercy in my successes alone, but let me find the grasp of your hand in my failure. My message really is, friends, can we be both tough and flexible? As the Serenity Prayer says, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. There is a beautiful story, if I can take 1 minute to conclude the story. This is a story of a man who would constantly bug God with his prayer, and God appears to him and says, 3 wishes, ask whatever you want, after that don't bug me with your prayers. The man says, I'm so happy you have come. All my misery is because of my wife. If she dies, I will have some peace. And God said, very well, his wife died. At a funeral, so many people came and said, she was such a wonderful lady, she did this to me. And he suddenly realized the greatness of his wife. He goes back to God and he says, I want my wife back. 2 wishes over, now 1 wish left. Now if he asks for health but no wealth, so he was absolutely confused, he made a mistake. Now friends, if you had 1 wish, what would you ask? He asked other people and that left him more confused. And finally, when you can't decide, what do? You choose not to decide. He was getting old, and God appears to him and says, I have given you a wish, why don't you ask? And he says, can I have 1 more wish? And God says, what is it? Can you in your intelligence tell me what to ask? And God says, see, I know you in and out. All that I have to say, whatever I have given you is what I think is best for you at this moment. The only prayer that we can have is to accept God's will with love. I'll conclude with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hegde. May I request His Excellency to be here.
Dr. Hegre, this is my honor to read out this Vocational Excellence Award that Rotary International District 3141 is pleased to honor you and confer upon you the Vocational Excellence Award for your outstanding accomplishments in the field of neuroscience and exemplary service to humanity. May I ask the Honorable Justice to please hand this over to you.